After marrying into the Qingning Marquis manor, I carefully managed everything, helping my husband rise from a seventh-rank Hanlon editor to a fourth-rank assistant minister of revenue. Yet, he brought my illegitimate half-sister before me, telling me she was pregnant with his child. I agreed to let him take her as a concubine and even promised to treat her child as my own. But when I became pregnant, she poisoned me. She sneered, "We've loved each other for a long time. You're the one who stood in our way. Just because you're the legitimate daughter and I'm the illegitimate one, I had to hand over the position of the Marquis's wife to you and marry a short-lived merchant instead? How could I let my child suffer the same fate?" After being reborn, I voluntarily stepped aside. She became the Marquis's wife, only to cry and beg me later, "Elder sister, save me." When I died, blood soaked the bedding. For the first time, I realized how much blood a person could lose. The pain was unbearable. I clutched the sheets so tightly that my nails cracked. Through my blurry vision, I saw a bloody mass emerge from between my legs. The midwife wrapped it in ash. That was my barely formed child. I wandered as a ghost for many years. Then, I was reborn at the age of 20, when I was still full of ambition. Inside the study, several account books were neatly arranged on the table. The records were clear, and the balance showed 50,000 taels of silver. I was supposed to report to my father about the accounts, but this time, I decided to discuss business with him instead. "Father, though Wangshan in the eastern part of the city is barren, it has good geomantic energy and is still inexpensive. Why don't we buy some land there and wait for the right time to develop it?" My father narrowed his eyes slightly, a hint of appreciation flashing in them. "Spending a few thousand taels is nothing to our Gu family. You're the eldest daughter. I'll let you make the decision." He didn't know that in the future, Wangshan would become the most sought-after place for imperial relatives and nobles to build their private estates, making the land worth a fortune. I continued, "Cloud brocade is becoming increasingly popular in the capital. Wealthy merchants and noble families are obsessed with it. We should acquire more weaving workshops and embroidery houses to specialize in its production." A few years later, cloud brocade would be worth its weight in gold in the capital. Father smiled and nodded. I had the same thought. "Let's do as you say." I pressed on. "Our Gu family's fleet at Suzhou's river port barely manages to transport silk and tea to the capital. Since this business is lucrative, why not expand our fleet?" Expand the fleet? Yes. Who knows? One day, our Gu family might even trade overseas. A few years later, the new emperor would open maritime trade, allowing private merchants to conduct business overseas. Those with ships would make a fortune. After a moment of thought, Father nodded. "Junyao, since you have such foresight, I agree. These investments, along with the Wangshan land, will be part of your dowry." I smiled. "Thank you, Father." Father then turned his attention to the imperial mausoleum construction plans on his desk. As an official in the Ministry of Works, he was overseeing the emperor's burial site. A chill ran through me. "Father, about the mausoleum? In my past life, he was implicated in a scandal related to the project and thrown into prison. He died wrapped in a straw mat, discarded in a mass grave." My eyes filled with unshed tears. But Father didn't notice. With a wave of his hand, he said, "Don't worry about that. Today is your birthday banquet, and the Wei family from the Marquis Manor will be arriving soon. Go and prepare yourself." I swallowed my words and silently left the study. I am the legitimate eldest daughter of the Gu family. Our ancestors were granted the title of Earl when the founding emperor established the dynasty. But over generations, the rank was gradually reduced, and by my father's time, only a viscount title remained. Fortunately, my father had a keen business sense, and our family owned numerous estates and shops, making us one of the wealthiest families in the capital. From a young age, I learned to read account books under my father's guidance. After my mother passed away a few years ago, I took over managing the family business, which delayed my marriage. The Gu family and the Qingning Marquis Manor had a long-standing relationship. The Marquis had been dismissed from office years ago due to political conflicts. Though the family still held their noble title, they had fallen into decline and survived only by relying on their inherited estates. The Marquis placed all his hopes on his eldest son, Wei Yiji, hoping he could restore the family's former glory. Wei Yiji passed the imperial examinations and became a Hanlin Academy editor. Today is my 20th birthday banquet. Both families plan to use this occasion to finalize my engagement to Wei Yiji. Just as I reached the door of the side chamber, I bumped into Gu Qilua, who was dressed up in an extravagant outfit. Sister, I heard that young Master Wei is already waiting at Lulan Courtyard. Let's hurry. Gu Qilua's face was filled with eagerness. She was born to my father's concubine, Aunt Ge, and had just turned 17 this year. In my past life, I married Wei Yiji, while she married a silk merchant. Within a year, she became a widow. Later, Wei Yiji brought Gu Qilua to me, saying she was carrying his child. If sister won't accept me, I'll have no choice but to die, she sobbed, her eyes red and swollen. Wei Yiji coaxed me in a gentle voice. Qilua is your sister. Surely, you can make room for her and the child. She's sensible and capable. Having her in the Wei family will help manage the household. She has always respected you as her elder sister. She's even willing to humble herself and be a concubine. I softened and agreed to let her become his concubine. I treated her child as if it were my own. Then, when I became pregnant, Gu Qilua secretly poisoned my prenatal medicine. I bled profusely and gave birth prematurely. She stood before me and said, "Because you're the legitimate daughter and I'm the illegitimate one, I had to give up the position of the Marquis's wife to you. How could I let your child be the legitimate heir while mine remains illegitimate? We have loved each other for a long time, but you and that lowly merchant stood in our way. I poisoned him. Now, it's your turn." I died. Wei Yiji quickly made Gu Qilua his official wife, and I could only watch from my grave as wild grass grew over my tomb. I stepped into the room, and Gu Qilua followed me in. I sat in front of the mirror as my maid, Lu Yun, came to do my hair. The woman in the mirror had jet black hair, snow-white skin, eyes like autumn waters, and lips as red as cinnabar. The eldest miss and young Master Wei truly make a perfect match. Lu Yun placed a golden floral hairpin in my hair. Gu Qilua looked at me with envy. Sister, this hairpin is so beautiful. Do you like it? I took the hairpin off and said casually, "Then I'll give it to you." How could I accept it? This was a gift from Consort Shu, she protested with feigned reluctance. Consort Shu was the emperor's favored concubine and also my mother's younger sister. She would be attending today's birthday banquet. It suits you. I smiled faintly and placed the hairpin in her hair myself. Gu Qilua admired herself in the mirror, unable to hide her delight. With her willow-like brows and almond-shaped eyes, she was an alluring beauty who could easily captivate men. In my past life, while I managed household affairs, she and Wei Yiji indulged in their romantic escapades. She always wore the latest styles, adorned herself with the trendiest makeup. I once caught her clinging to Wei Yiji like a water snake moaning, "Do you like sister?" or "Do you like me?" Wei Yiji answered, "She reeks of money. How could she compare to your charm?" At Lulan Courtyard, after several rounds of wine and an array of dishes, Consort Shu brought up the topic. Jun Yao is already 20. The engagement with the Marquis's family shouldn't be delayed any longer. I responded lightly, "Aunt, young Master Wei is talented and accomplished. I, on the other hand, am vulgar and money-obsessed. How could I ever be worthy of him?" The room fell into stunned silence. Wei Yiji froze, clearly not expecting me to say such a thing. Madame Wei panicked and quickly tried to smooth things over. "Junyao, what nonsense is this? Our Wei family has long recognized the Gu family's daughter. There's no need to delay any further. Why not finalize the engagement today?" What the Wei family truly wanted was my generous dowry. Madame Wei was eager to see me married into their family as soon as possible. In my past life, when I first entered the Marquis's manor, I used my dowry to help Wei Yiji rise in rank. Madame Wei treated me fairly well then. But once Wei Yiji gained power, his mother started nitpicking, suppressing me at every turn. I spoke nonchalantly. Doesn't the Gu family have another daughter? I think Qilihua and young Master Wei make a good match. Gu Qilua's face turned red, and she hurriedly denied it. Sister, don't joke about such things. All eyes turned to us. Today, I had deliberately dressed simply, wearing a light green gown with only a single jade hairpin. Meanwhile, Gu Qilihua was decked out in a lavish red silk dress, adorned with a golden floral hairpin I had given her, looking ostentatious and flashy. I was the legitimate eldest daughter of the Gu family, the birthday girl today, yet this concubine-born sister of mine dressed so extravagantly just to impress Wei Yiji. She truly had no sense of propriety. Consort Shu frowned, clearly displeased by the scene. I continued. The jade earrings my sister is wearing, did young Master Wei gift them to her? Wei Yiji looked embarrassed. She liked them, so I bought them on a whim. I then pointed at the sachet on his waist. And that sachet, was it a gift from my sister? Wei Yiji hesitated, unable to find the words. With that, their secret affair was exposed before everyone. The room fell into an awkward silence. Consort Shu shot Wei Yiji a cold glance and said indifferently, in that case, Juanyao's marriage can wait. There's no rush, my niece won't have trouble finding a good match. She had no children of her own, and I had grown up in the palace under her care. She treated me like her own daughter. Unfortunately, after the late emperor passed away, Consort Shu requested to guard his tomb. The Wei family assumed I had lost my backing and started taking advantage of me. I smiled at Consort Shu gratefully. Thank you, Aunt. Madame Wei's face darkened upon hearing her words. After the birthday banquet, my father spoke to me about my marriage. I remained firm. Father, I will not marry Wei Yiji. I need to personally inspect the land for the mausoleum project. It's important to consider both feng shui and the foundation. The weaving and embroidery workshops vary in quality. Since they will be part of my dowry, I must choose them carefully myself. As for the Suzhou shipping fleet, though manager Wu has been overseeing it, expanding the fleet is a major undertaking. We cannot be careless. I should keep an eye on it as well. Third and fourth brother are still in school, and I wish to spend a few more years by your side. I don't mind becoming an old maid. Let's postpone the marriage discussion. My father had always relied on me and knew that once I made up my mind, I wouldn't easily change it. He eventually sighed and nodded. Fine, fine. If that's your decision, Wei Yiji is no good match anyway. Take care of the family affairs for another 2 years. With that, my father put my marriage plans on hold and sent word rejecting the Wei family's proposal. Though the Wei family had declined, they were still a noble household. With me, the legitimate daughter of the Gu family, out of the picture, the shrewd Madame Wei refused to settle for letting Wei Yiji marry a concubine-born daughter. I was reviewing the list of textile workshops in the capital when Luyun ran in, panting. Miss, Master has arranged a marriage for second miss, and she's making a scene in the front hall. She insists on marrying young Master Wei. I went to the front hall and saw Gu Qilihua with tear-filled eyes. Father, you're always biased towards sister. If she can marry into the Marquis family, why should I have to marry some lowly merchant? Now that she refuses to marry, I will. What's wrong with that? My father's expression was thunderous. Everything in the Gu family, who manages it? Your sister. The Du family may be merchants, but they are wealthy and honest. You won't suffer there. Concubine Go, tearful, chimed in. You're just a concubine-born daughter, and you want to marry into the Marquis family? Even if your sister refuses, it won't be your turn. Stop causing trouble for Master. These two were clearly putting on an act, playing the victims before my father. In my past life, after Gu Qilihua became the Marchioness, concubine Go benefited greatly from it. Behind my back, they never stopped cursing me as a short-lived wretch. Gu Qilihua sobbed, looking utterly pitiful. Seeing me, concubine Go quickly said, Junyao, your sister is being unreasonable. Master is furious, talk to him. Feigning concern, I said to my father, Father, if my sister and young Master Wei are truly in love, how could I, as her elder sister, bear to separate them? Please, grant them your blessing. At my words, my father only felt all the more that he had wronged me. I had dedicated myself to the family, even delaying my own marriage, while Gu Qilua secretly entangled herself with Wei Yizhi. If he truly sent Gu Qilua to the Marquis's manor, it wasn't just the Wei family refusing to accept her. He himself would feel he had failed me. As expected, my father waved his hand and said firmly, "Forget it. Don't bring this up again." I took Lu Yan to the largest silk weaving workshop in the capital. As soon as I stepped out of the carriage, I unexpectedly ran into Wei Yizhi. He was still as elegant and refined as ever, standing tall like a jade tree. In my past life, when I first experienced the stirrings of love, I had already set my heart on him as my future husband. After marrying into the Marquis's household, my world revolved entirely around him. But now, just looking at him disgusted me. Junyao, stop being so petulant. Wei Yizhi stepped forward, attempting to dissolve my indifference with his usual gentle demeanor. Petulant. I scoffed coldly. Young Master Wei, you think too highly of yourself. In the Gu family, I was an unquestioned authority, and he had long been displeased with my imperious temperament. Meanwhile, Gu Qilua always appeared sweet and obedient, a flawless existence in his eyes. You refused to marry me just because of that pair of earrings and that sachet? I've already thrown them away. Wei Yizhi tried to explain. You think I would be angry over such trivial things? Then why did you reject me? Why are you so insistent on marrying me? I countered with a sneer. Wei Yizhi faltered, his eyes flickering as if searching for an excuse. Because you're Junyao. I let out a cold laugh, mercilessly exposing his hypocrisy. My concubine-born sister has been making a scene at home, insisting that she must marry you. Wei Yizhi frowned, clearly not expecting the ever-docile Gu Qilua to pull such a stunt. He wanted to marry me because I was the legitimate daughter with a substantial dowry. At the same time, he sought to climb the ranks using the influence of my aunt, Consort Shu. Wei Yizhi was an ambitious man. With his father dismissed from office and himself holding only a minor 7th-rank position, he would never throw away his political future for my concubine-born sister. As expected, Wei Yizhi said, She can't compare to you. I will never marry her. I asked coldly. You and my sister have been secretly meeting in the Ji garden for years. Since you share such deep affection, what are you afraid of? Wei Yizhi's face instantly turned deathly pale. In my past life, Gu Qilua frequently visited the Wei estate under the pretense of meeting Wei Yizhi's younger sister, but in reality, she was secretly rendezvousing with him in the Ji garden. I only discovered their betrayal when I was on the brink of death. Wei Yizhi married me for my value, yet he carried on an affair with Gu Qilua in the Ji garden, even getting her pregnant. This time, I would fulfill their wishes and let these two despicable lovers have each other. The distant hum of weaving looms from inside the workshop reached my ears. I treated Wei Yizhi as if he were air and walked straight into the weaving workshop. There, I was greeted by Du Zhe, the young owner of Chunjing Weaving Workshop. Du Zhe was honest and skilled in business. In my past life, after marrying Gu Qilua, he caught her in the act with Wei Yizhi and was poisoned to death by her. This time, I could save his life. What is the current daily production? I asked, raising my voice. We produce 50 bolts a day, Du Zhe replied. I glanced at a large jacquard loom weaving cloud brocade with butterfly patterns. What about the cloud brocade? Cloud brocade requires intricate pattern tying, and both the looms and craftsmen are expensive. Our workshop currently has only one cloud brocade loom, producing 1 bolt per day. If the Gu family funds a complete upgrade to cloud brocade looms, turning Chunjing into the largest cloud brocade workshop in the capital, what would you say? Du Zhe's eyes lit up. Miss Gu, please come inside to discuss further. He had already seen the potential of cloud brocade, but he lacked the funds to expand. I offered him even more than he had hoped for, an additional 1,000 taels. We signed the contract. I became the largest shareholder of Chunjing Weaving Workshop. Leaving the workshop, I headed to the dance house at Banquet Pavilion. A devilishly handsome man lounged lazily on a couch, his gaze indifferent. In front of him, dancers clad in sheer silk swayed their delicate waists. Second young master, this truly is the perfect place to meet a lady, I teased as I approached. Wei Qian glanced at me and smirked playfully. With a casual wave of his hand, he dismissed the dancers. As the second son of the Wei family, he was a notorious libertine, known for his reckless and debauched ways. Disappointed in him, the old Marquis Wei had given him a separate household early on, forcing him to fend for himself. Junyao, you finally came. Wei Qian poured me a drink, his long lashes casting shadows over his star-like eyes. Why won't you marry my brother? What do you think? I met his gaze. Wei Qian chuckled, his tone laced with sarcasm. You don't mean to say you want to marry me, the infamous second young master, do you? We had grown up together. He had always loved teasing me, dragging me along for all sorts of indulgences. When he was 13, his mother, unable to get along with the Wei matriarch, hanged herself, and he had since adopted his roguish ways. Feigning nonchalance, I smiled. Why not? Wei Qian stiffened, his gaze locked onto my face. Junyao, say that again? You ask again? I smirked. You want to marry me, Wei Qian?
Sure.
Wei Qian picked up his cup, laughing bitterly. Junyao, I could never compare to my brother. The whole capital knows I'm the Wei family's good-for-nothing, a man wasting his life away in drunken revelry. Then why not seek refuge with the fifth prince? Perhaps you could make something of yourself. I arched a brow, deliberately provoking him. The fifth prince. He was visibly startled. The emperor had suppressed the fifth prince, banishing him to a distant military outpost. Yet in my past life, he returned in triumph, became the crown prince, and eventually ascended the throne. If Wei Qian allied with him now, it would be a timely show of support, one that would surely be rewarded in the future. Yes, the fifth prince, I said softly. Wei Qian fell silent, as if weighing his options. Why him? I smiled slyly, my eyes gleaming with cunning. A little secret from my aunt. The question is, do you have the guts to take the gamble? At dinner, Ango came to me with tears in her eyes. Chila, she refuses to marry into the Du family, insists on marrying into the Wei family, and now she's even threatening to starve herself. Ridiculous. My father slammed his chopsticks on the table, his voice full of anger. Let her be. I tried to smooth things over. Father, let me go talk to Chila. I went to Gu Chilua's bedroom. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, and as soon as she saw me, she let out a cold laugh through her nose. I don't want your sympathy, I signaled to Luyun. Bring the food over. Then, I turned to Gu Chilua, trying to soften my tone. Sister, why go to such lengths? If you want to break off the engagement with the Du family, I can help you. Can you really help me? Gu Chilua looked at me suspiciously. I nodded. I am now in charge of Chunjing Weaving Workshop. The Du family wouldn't dare to offend me. Gu Chilua's face showed shock and doubt. She never managed the family accounts and didn't know much about finances. In the Gu family, I was her only legitimate sister, and everything I had, I would prepare a share for her. She took it all for granted. In the past life, after she married into the Wei family as a concubine, the Wei Yiji pampered her. The Wei family's rules were strict. Madame Wei suppressed the concubines, keeping their living conditions poor. She resented being a concubine and hated her financial struggles. At that point, she came to me and begged to learn how to manage the household. I, pregnant and suffering from severe morning sickness, trusted her goodwill and handed over my account books, teaching her some basic accounting and household management skills. She learned just enough to poison me to death. I continued, breaking off the engagement isn't difficult, but if you want to marry into the Wei family, you need to get approval from Madame Wei first. Gu Chilua looked helpless. My eldest brother listens to his mother's every word. How could Madame Wei ever accept me? And father refuses to speak on my behalf to the Ho residents. I took a deep breath and encouraged her. Father is getting old. How could he lower himself and beg for something like this? If you ask him, it's better to go together with Wei Yiji, to plead with Madame Wei. When I mentioned Wei Yiji, Gu Qilua's face darkened. He hasn't come to see me since that banquet. If he really likes you, how could he let you suffer alone? My words pierced her heart like a needle, and her expression grew even darker. I continued to encourage her. Once Madame Wei agrees, I'll help persuade father and have him prepare a magnificent dowry for you. A spark of hope flickered in Gu Qilua's eyes. Sister, why are you helping me like this? I smiled, my eyes dark. Since you two are in love, as your sister, of course, I want to help you two get together. I had Lu Yun send word to Du. Du quickly invited a matchmaker to the Gu residence and said that since the Du family was a merchant family and didn't match Gu Qilua's status, they were voluntarily calling off the engagement. Seeing that one side refused to marry and the other refused to marry, my father had to give in. Gu Qilua happily went to find Wei Yiji, only to be turned away at the door. Wei Yiji refused to see her, but sent me a pair of golden phoenix hairpins, saying he sincerely wanted to marry me. I had the hairpins sent back with a note. Such trinkets aren't worthy of the eldest daughter of the Gu family. Finally, Wei Yiji came to visit in person, but I coldly refused to let him in. When I left the house, Wei Yiji was waiting for me at the door. I asked directly, Master Wei, now that you're an editor at the Hanlon Academy, how much is your annual salary? Wei Yiji was taken aback. 80 taels. I asked again, how much did the estate income from the Qingning Marquis' estate last year? Wei Yiji, who wasn't good with accounts, gave a vague answer. About 4 or 5,000 taels. I waved a silver note in my hand, my tone dripping with disdain. I have a business deal worth 6,000 taels to discuss. My sister is just idle at the moment. Wei Yiji's face instantly darkened. I was busy buying land in Wangshan and inspecting dozens of weaving and embroidery workshops. Wei Qian and the fifth prince had gone to the western border. He wrote to me frequently, sometimes sending multiple letters in 1 month. His letters were full of various topics, from the scenery in the western border to jokes he'd heard, to a dish he'd tried, everything. Some letters were long, others just a short line. The snow lotus in the mountains is bloomed. It's white and very fragrant. Sometimes he would even surprise me. He told me that there were snow wolves in the snow mountains, and while hunting with the fifth prince, he saved the prince's life and got injured in the process. The snow wolf became his trophy, and he tied a bell to its tail and sent it to me as a gift. I hung the bell under the eaves, and whenever the wind blew, the sound of the bell reminded me vividly of Wei Qian chasing the snow wolf in the icy wilderness, fighting it, getting hurt, but still smiling carelessly. My replies, however, were rather dull. I would simply tell him what I bought or what I acquired. Madame Wei, seeing that I was determined not to marry into the Wei family, began to propose marriage to Wei Yiji. She had her eye on the fourth miss from the Pingyang Marquis family, a cousin of the imperial concubine Duanfei. The fourth miss was of noble birth, and it was said she had quite a stubborn temperament. I brought a few rolls of exquisite cloud brocade and quietly visited the fourth miss. A few days later, the fourth miss declared that the man she married would never take concubines. Gu Qilua hesitated and tried to persuade me. Sister, just marry Wei Yiji. The engagement was always meant to be yours. If I didn't marry him, how would she smoothly enter the Wei family, take my dowry, and step over me to rise? I interrupted her. What you want, I, as your sister, would never snatch away. But if Wei Yiji really settles on that fourth miss from Pingyang Marquis family, sister, you might not even be able to become a concubine. How would you deal with that? Gu Qilua bit her lip, resentfully saying, she can forget it. Soon, the engagement between Wei Yiji and the fourth miss from Pingyang Marquis family was finalized. Gu Qilua didn't cry or make a fuss, and returned to her former docile self. Lu Yun told me that Gu Qilua frequently went to Wei's residence to visit the third miss. I smirked coldly in my heart. It was once again her meeting Wei Yiji in Ziyuan in secret. 2 months before Wei Yiji was set to marry the fourth daughter of the Pingyang marquis family, Guqi Luo suddenly kneeled in front of my father, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded, "Father, please grant me and the eldest son's child." Sure enough, she had already resorted to the pregnancy tactic. My father's face turned ashen with fury, and he immediately raised his whip to strike her. Aunt Go, with tears streaming down her face, quickly intervened to stop him. Guqi Luo, desperate, threatened to force Wei Yiji into marrying her by using the child as leverage. Wei Yiji, however, coldly refused to acknowledge it, saying, "Get rid of the child." Guqi Luo, undeterred, openly spread the news that she was pregnant with Wei Yiji's child. In the Wei household, Wei Furen, enraged, threw her teacup at Wei Yiji, cursing Guqi Luo as a shameless woman who had seduced him. The fourth daughter of the Pingyang marquis family immediately demanded the engagement be called off. Wei Yiji was humiliated, and his reputation plummeted, becoming a laughingstock in the capital. Wei Furen, struck with grief and anger, fell ill and firmly refused to let Guqi Luo enter the household. Wei Yiji, helpless, suggested that Guqi Luo be kept as a concubine. But Guqi Luo refused to accept being a concubine. What she wanted was the position of wife. With her swollen belly, every day Guqi Luo's presence was a shame to both the Wei and Gu families. When Wei Yiji came to me, he looked completely defeated. "Junyao, how did it come to this?" I sneered inwardly. Some women, once entangled, became like vines that would suffocate you until the end. In my past life, until my death, he had always thought Guqi Luo was innocent. Yet, he had already gotten what he wanted, and he didn't care about my life or death. I coldly responded, "Wei Yiji, you made this mess yourself, and now you come asking me?" Wei Yiji stammered, "Now, given how things are, Qi Luo has always respected you as her sister. Can you help talk to her?" Suppressing my disgust, I pretended to speak in a calm voice. "How can I talk to her? Why don't you just marry her?" For the sake of the child in Guqi Luo's belly, my father finally mustered the courage to go to the Wei family. Wei Furen, at her wit's end, reluctantly agreed to let Guqi Luo enter the household. Guqi Luo, having achieved her goal, eagerly married into the Wei household. However, after she entered the house, Wei Furen treated her like a block of ice, never even sparing her an extra glance. The servants in the Wei household all avoided her, as if she were a plague. I made a special visit to the Wei residence to check on Guqi Luo. Her face was pale, her limbs thin, but her belly protruded prominently, a stark contrast. "Sister, in the past, Wei Yiji always praised me for being obedient and said I had a womanly charm. But now, he always scolds me for not understanding my place. Even though I'm carrying his child, he refuses to look at me," Guqi Luo said, touching her belly, a melancholy expression on her face. In my previous life, she had used the child to gain Wei Yiji's affection and attention. I had accepted her, and the Wei household had done the same. But what happened then? She poisoned me and my child. I clenched my teeth and said coldly, "Don't overthink it. Focus on taking care of the baby. Now, you're the only one who's still kind to me." Guqi Luo's voice held a touch of sadness. I often sent her various tonics and casually chatted with her about court gossip. My aunt mentioned that the emperor is planning to promote a new Jinshi as the Minister of Rights. My aunt also mentioned that the emperor wants to let Li Taifu retire and have the Minister of Revenue replace him. Academician Lin from the Hanlin Academy is about to become the Prime Minister. The emperor really appreciates his new tax law. These were all pieces of information that Wei Yiji had secretly told me in my previous life. I intentionally shared these with her, and sure enough, they all came true. I knew that Guqi Luo, eager to please Wei Yiji, would inevitably pass these messages on to him. One day, I brought her some Lingji powder. I casually said, "The eldest son is talented, yet still only a 7th-rank editor. What a pity. I heard the second prince is currently recruiting talents." My aunt even mentioned that the emperor plans to make the second prince the heir. I paused, giving Guqi Luo a meaningful look. She immediately understood. The second prince was the future heir, and a gleam of excitement flashed in her eyes. I brought Lingji powder, which is excellent for health. Don't forget to take it, I reminded her softly before leaving. Now that she was in the Wei household, her living conditions were worse than when she was still unmarried in the Gu family. She quickly nodded. Wei Easy, due to Gu Qilua's bad reputation, was eager to turn things around. After being swayed by her whispers, he soon threw himself into the second prince's faction. Wei Qian continued to write me letters, occasionally sending small gifts. One day, Lu Yun brought me another of his letters. We've reached Shuiyun Crossing, with peach blossoms and white plums in full bloom, the banks lined with flowers. There's a girl by the creek drawing water. Junjun, I thought of you again. The word, again, made my heart swell with a soft, lingering emotion. Back when I was 15, Wei Qian had taken me on a spring outing to enjoy the flowers. I had soaked my shoes and skirts by the creek, and he helped me lift the hem of my dress, laughing. Junjun, if you marry my elder brother, you'd be better off marrying me instead. I had spat at him, saying, You're such a fool. Even if every man in the world died, I still wouldn't marry you. At that time, my heart belonged only to Wei Yiji. How could I know that Wei Qian's joke carried genuine feelings? I held the letter in a daze, turning to look out the window. Beneath the wisteria trellis stood a man. Dressed in military attire, his helmet absent, his hair tied back neatly, his face as clear as the moon and his posture as upright as a pine. Junjun. Wei Qian smiled, his expression dreamy. A breeze blew, and the wisteria petals fell onto his shoulder. Wei Qian. I ran out and punched him hard in the chest. But my hand hit like it was striking stone, and the pain made me gasp. Wei Qian was finally shaken awake and grabbed my hand. Did I hurt you? Let me see. Hey, why are you wearing armor under your clothes? Armor. Wei Qian whispered, then smiled at me. What armor? Try punching again and you'll know. I poked his chest with my finger, pretending to be angry. You've just returned to the capital. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Wei Qian laughed. If I had told you, how could I sneak a peek at my good wife? I raised my fist again. I'm not your wife. Stop saying nonsense. Wei Qian caught my fist and stared at me. If you don't want to be my good wife, then whose wife do you want to be? You promised me, and I'm going to stick with you forever. Suddenly, he leaned in and quickly kissed my cheek. Good wife. You've been in the Western Territories for 2 years, and you haven't changed a bit. I covered my face, glaring at him angrily. The customs in the Western Territories are bold. Men and women alike are passionate and free. When you become my wife, you'll understand. Wei Qian smiled again. Wife, are you blushing? Good wife. Junjun, are you mad? I apologize. Don't be angry. Hit me. Wei Qian hurriedly leaned in, offering his head for me to strike. I burst out laughing. The emperor summoned the 5th prince back to the capital. Wei Qian, being the 5th prince's deputy commander of the imperial cavalry, was a 5th-grade official. Wei Qian often came to visit me at the Gu family estate, and of course, this didn't escape Wei Yiji's notice. One day, he stopped me, his voice full of confusion. Junjun, you didn't want to marry me, but now you've fallen for my second brother? I answered sarcastically. He's better looking than you, and his position is no lower than yours. Why wouldn't I want him? Among so many men, you chose the illegitimate son of the Wei family to insult me? Wei Yiji, you really think too highly of yourself. Wei Yiji's face darkened, gritting his teeth. Gu Junyao, I'll make you regret this. I coldly sneered. I'm waiting. The price of Yunjin fabric in the capital soared, and the few weaving workshops and embroidery houses I owned were doing brisk business. Money flowed in like a river. At the same time, Yunzhou suffered from severe flooding, and the 5th prince was urgently dispatched to assist with disaster relief. Wei Qian went with the 5th prince to Yunzhou, but within less than half a month, he returned to the capital looking haggard and unshaven. It turned out that the disaster relief grain managed by the second prince hadn't arrived on time, and the disaster-stricken area was about to fall into complete despair. Only then did the fifth prince send Wei Qian back to the capital to find alternative ways of providing relief. I felt a sudden chill. In my previous life, the fifth prince's disaster relief had been a great success, and he had become the crown prince as soon as he returned. Why was he now facing such trouble? Who's in charge of the grain distribution? I asked. My elder brother is sabotaging it, Wei Qian said helplessly. I've approached him, but he refused and gave me a whole bunch of excuses. So, it was Wei Yizhi causing trouble behind the scenes. I asked Wei Qian to secretly deliver 8,000 taels of silver to the fifth prince, telling him it was from the Gu family's support. At the same time, I had Du Zhe mobilize other merchants in the capital, contributing money and rice. The Gu family made their support known, sending their fleet from the Suzhou docks to transport large quantities of rice to Yunzhou. When Wei Qian and I arrived in Yunzhou, the fifth prince personally came out to greet us. You are the eldest daughter of Gu Bohugu Juniao. The fifth prince looked me up and down, his eyes full of admiration. I smiled and nodded. Why are you supporting me? I replied, Yunzhou has suffered severe flooding, and the people are struggling. Though I am just a woman, I want to contribute my small part. I've heard that several of the Yunjin workshops in the capital belong to you. I also know that you've purchased land in Wangshan, and your family is expanding its fleet. You really keep your ears open, fifth prince. I flattered him. The workshops and land were my dowry from my father, and as for the fleet, I have an idea. If we could develop overseas trade and send the fleet out to sea, it would definitely bring in great profit. The fifth prince was taken aback, his gaze deep as he looked at me. The eldest daughter of the Gu family truly lives up to her reputation. The emperor fell gravely ill, and the second prince seized the opportunity to recruit influential figures in the capital. Meanwhile, the quietly unassuming fifth prince gained widespread recognition for his disaster relief efforts. Secretly, the fifth prince had Wei Qian replicate Western-style firearms, planning to use them to recover the western border. At the same time, I sent over 5,000 taels of silver notes to the fifth prince as support from the Gu family. Wei Qian was curious. Junjun, where did you get so much money? I teased him. You, a spendthrift, if I don't earn more, how will I support you? Wei Qian gently replied, Junjun, I'm no longer the naive man I once was. Though I'm still a bastard of the Wei family, I have confidence that I can still give you a good life in the future. Got it. Wei Erlang has undergone a transformation. I earn money to secure the future of the Gu family, I said. The Gu family? Wei Qian asked. In my previous life, my father had been involved in the construction of the late emperor's tomb. Years later, it collapsed due to a rare storm. The current emperor, who was then the fifth prince, ordered an investigation into those involved. Though my father wasn't in charge, he was imprisoned and died in jail, plunging the Gu family into turmoil. As the wife of the Marquis, Gu Qilua swiftly distanced herself from my family. She never visited my father and even refused to meet my fourth brother when he sought her help. Now, my full support for the fifth prince was my way of hoping he would remember the Gu family's kindness in the future and prevent the prison disaster that befell my father. But these things couldn't be explained to my father or to Wei Qian. I blinked and said, just don't ask about it. I went to visit Gu Qilua with some tonics. It's almost time for the baby, but he's always busy and nowhere to be found, she complained, her face pale as she expressed her frustrations with Wei Yizhi. Isn't the second prince very fond of the eldest son? I asked. Indeed, she replied. He works well under the second prince, and now that the second prince is about to become crown prince, he finally praised me, saying that I had the foresight to advise him to support the second prince. I handed her a cup of honey water infused with lingji. If the eldest son rises to power, Madame Wei will surely value your sister even more. Drink up, sister. The emperor initially appeared to suppress the fifth prince, but in reality, he was isolating him from the political faction struggles. The fifth prince quietly strengthened his military in the western frontier, gaining the support of several high-ranking generals. Upon his return to the capital, he worked diligently in politics, his success in disaster relief earning him the people's admiration, and the emperor named him crown prince. Wei Qian was appointed general of Chongqing, becoming the youngest fourth-rank general in the court. As for Wei Yizhi, the fourth-rank position that had once been promised to him by the second prince became nothing but a shattered hope. He was demoted to the harsh northern frontier to handle the menial task of horsekeeping. One night, Lu Yun came to knock on my door, saying that someone from the Wei family had come and asked me to hurry over. When I arrived at the Gu residence, I found Gu Qilihua curled up on the bed, her face as pale as paper. Wei Yizhi stood by, looking grim. It turned out that Wei Yizhi was about to leave for the northern frontier the next day, and Gu Qilihua was refusing to go with him. After a fierce argument, he pushed her to the ground, and she showed signs of preterm labor and bleeding. Gu Qilihua clutched the blanket, shivering, tears in her eyes. Wei Yizhi, how can you do this to me? This is our child, our child. Wei Yizhi, still furious, shouted. You dare bring up the child? It's because of you, this foolish woman, that I've ended up like this. Gu Qilihua struggled to rise, her voice weak but defiant. I'm foolish? If it weren't for your greed and obsession with promotion, how would we have fallen so low? Wei Yizhi coldly retorted. Shut up. Listen, Gu Qilihua, I don't care about this child. You either come with me tomorrow or disappear from the Wei family forever. He slammed the door behind him. Sister, help me, Gu Qilihua cried, grabbing my hand. I'm still pregnant. I can't go to that horrible place.
I'll die.
I shook her hand off, my voice cold. For years, you and the eldest son were so in love. Couldn't you even bear this test? Gu Qilihua was at a loss for words. I continued, you always wanted to be the Marquis's wife. Why aren't you satisfied now? You were greedy for the vanity of the title, yet now you come to me for help? The so-called love between you and Wei Yizhi was nothing but an illusion of greed and desire. Sister, how can you say such things to me? Though Wei Yizhi isn't very smart, there's one thing he said that's right. You're a foolish woman, foolish enough to bet on the sincerity of a selfish man. Gu Qilihua stared at me in shock. Gu Junyao, it was you. You ruined me. How did I ruin you? I responded indifferently. I simply used the trap you set for yourself, where it was meant to be used. I took out a white porcelain bottle and gently placed it in front of her. This is the poison you prepared for your birthday banquet, the one you kept in your room. Do you recognize it? Gu Qilua's eyes widened in fear. I quietly observed her. This poison is colorless and tasteless, but can cause hemorrhaging and death in a pregnant woman. You planned it long ago, but didn't expect that I would no longer marry Wei Yizhi. Too bad. This poison had already been mixed into your tonic. The seeds you planted will eventually bear fruit. Gu Qilua's face twisted in despair as she stared at me, her eyes filled with terror. Gu Qilihua was unable to save the child. She bled to death. Wei Yizhi never once visited her sickbed. The next day, like a lost dog, he left for the northern frontier. The Wei family, once a prestigious family, had now fallen so low that they could only bury Gu Qilihua in a flimsy coffin. Before Wei Yizhi had even reached the northern frontier, the fifth prince, now the crown prince, began a thorough investigation into the disaster relief efforts. Wei Yizhi had sabotaged the relief process, causing the delay. The crown prince issued an imperial edict to exile him to the northern frontier, where he would serve hard labor, never to return. As the Wei family's downfall unfolded, the old marquis remembered the illegitimate son they had long abandoned, Wei Qian. But Wei Qian's mother had been forced to death by the Wei family matriarch, and the scar in his heart never healed. When the Wei family invited him, Wei Qian rejected without hesitation. He no longer wished to set foot in the Wei family again. When Wei Qian came to the Gu family to propose, I had just received a message from the Empress Dowager. The crown prince had asked the emperor for permission to take Gu Junyao as a concubine, and my aunt asked for my opinion. I began packing my things. Junjun, where are you going? Wei Qian asked, his voice tense. To see the mountains and seas, I replied, my tone light and carefree. Weren't you going to be my wife? Have you been lying to me this whole time? A trace of sadness flashed in Wei Qian's eyes. I nodded, my voice calm. Yes, I've been lying to you. I sighed inwardly, but my heart felt clear. Love cannot withstand tests. I didn't want Wei Qian to be forced into a difficult choice. I had severed what needed to be severed, and the Goof family would no longer face prison disasters. In this life, I owed no one anything. I just wanted to live freely for myself. When I was about to board the ship and leave the capital, I encountered the crown prince waiting at the dock. Gu Junyao, you'd rather leave the Goof family than marry me? The crown prince's robes fluttered in the wind. If your highness wishes to marry me, could it be because I can earn money? Well, I'll earn money for you, I said with a smile. A flicker of admiration crossed the crown prince's eyes, and a playful smile appeared on his face. Since you proposed sea trade, I knew you were no ordinary person. Your ambitions align with mine. In that case, does your highness want a wife hidden away in the inner chambers, or a partner who will help you expand your maritime trade routes? The crown prince laughed loudly, his voice like a bell. Gu Junyao, you are indeed the woman I have chosen. I will wait for you in the capital and return with the winds of the sea. Thank you, your highness. I bid the crown prince farewell at the bow of the ship and entered the cabin. Inside the cabin, Wei Qian leaned quietly against a chair, his face full of smiles as he watched me. How did you get here? I asked in surprise. My relationship with the crown prince is closer than you think, Wei Qian said with a smile. I saved him when he was hunting the snow wolf. He granted me the freedom to choose my path. But you are now a fourth-rank general in the court. Are you willing to leave everything behind and come with me? I raised an eyebrow. Wei Qian stood up, extended his arms, and tightly wrapped them around my waist. I often dream of you leaving me. I feel like I've waited my whole life for you. I won't let you leave me. In the previous life, he never married. Every year, the person who burned incense at my grave was him. So, in this life, I gave him the opportunity to get close to me. But I was still afraid. I wanted to disappear forever. Maybe, like in the previous life, he would remember me for the rest of his life. But this fool, he wouldn't let me go. Since you're willing to come with me, we'll face the storms together. You're not allowed to regret it in the future. I gently caressed his chin. I will never regret it. Only you. Wei Qian's kiss fell. When the heart is free, how can it fear a kiss? A lifetime is too long. We only seize the moment. End of the novel.